Listen. I don't have favorites.
Something tells me Palma might be your favorite Pokemon in Generation 9.
No, he's not. But I think actually my favorite Gen 9 Pokemon is probably King Gambit, and that's what his opponent is using. But you see King Gambit more often than you see Palma. I'm just excited to see something different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, we're going to be seeing King Gambit and everything. But we're going to get through this matchup real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we did see Chris Zamora play in round number 1 on stream. He has played very well throughout this tournament, being at 2-2 right now, entering our final round of Swiss. So, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing is that a win by either one of these trainers will essentially guarantee them a top 8 cut and a shot at those championship points.
Yes, this should be our win and into the top cut, and we are having a top cut of 8. So it'll be a good one looking at both these players. They've both worked super hard to get 2-2, and now here they are.
Honestly, like, we can start with Chris because we did talk about his team already.
Yeah, we could summarize it really quick. It's
a Stellar Chien-Pao with the Life Orb, which we did see. It did major damage. That Sucker Punch Life Orb Terra Stellar did absolutely insane levels of damage. To Brendan Nasir's team.
We have the Choice Band, Terra Normal, Extreme Speeding, Entei. We have the Palmot that we have yet to see. We have Ogre Pond Wellspring. We have Covert Cloak Tornadus, and the Porygon 2 that we've talked about.
And the most important thing is that, again, with that Palmot, if Chris decides to go with that Terra Electric on the Palmot, he can just click double shock, and he will not lose his Electric type because the Terra type overrides the burning out of all the electricity.
Yeah, it's just so good.
And then moving on to his opponent, Colby Tuttle, ladies and gentlemen. Colby Tuttle, also 2-2. He is actually looking. He said he was looking forward to being on this stream match just now before we got into round 5, ladies and gentlemen.
And he is also running a Terra Stellar Chien-Pao, with the Focus Sash instead of the Life Orb. But his Life Orb on a Raging Bolt, and we normally don't see Raging Bolt with the Life Orb item. We usually see it with the Assault Vest or the Leftovers.
Or even Booster Energy for that matter.
Or even Booster Energy.
But we do see it is a sort of a standard set on the Raging Bolt there with Protect, Thunderbolt, Thunderclap, and Dragon Pulse. The Urshifu Rapid Strike is a Choice Scarf set. Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and U-Turn. The reason why there is no Ice Spinner on this Urshifu has to be because Colby is running that Rillaboom, and he does not want to lose his own grassy terrain by virtue of Ice Spinner.
Not at all. And this Rillaboom is running the Meadow Plate instead of the Assault Vest because the Assault Vest is actually on the King Gambit.
That is also a very good point to note there, Landon. And the Chien-Pao on Colby's side, also Terra Stellar, but it's got a Focus Sash, and it's got Icicle Crash instead of Ice Spinner. Because again, as we just said, Rillaboom has that grassy terrain up, so it does not want to...
Don't want to get rid of your own terrain.
No, you never want to get rid of your own terrain. The only way you want to get rid of your own terrain is if your opponent gets rid of your terrain for you. Yep. And in which case, you switch out, you switch back in, and you get your terrain back.
Exactly. And,
But the other thing to note on Colby's side, this Farigiraf, we just saw Farigiraf used by Patrick Connors in round 3. Virtually the exact same set. Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, Helping Hand, and Trick Room.
Citrus Berry too. Yep, everything is about the same.
And the other thing is that this Urshifu at level, it doesn't look like it has much speed on it, even with the Choice Scarf.
I mean, hey, Choice Scarves get you enough speed in the end, doesn't it?
This is very true here. But guys, we're about to get into game number 1 of our win and in matchup. Who is going to get that all-important first win? Is it going to be Colby? Is it going to be Chris? We're going to get into it right now as we see Chris lead with that Chien-Pao and Entei versus Rillaboom and Chien-Pao for Colby.
Yeah, both the Chien-Paos coming from both sides. Remember that Swords of Ruin do not stack, and we see the Rillaboom has potential fake out option onto the Chien-Pao, not the Entei because of the inner focus ability.
However, Chris's Chien-Pao does have the option for a Protect here to potentially scout out that fake out here. Which
I've never noticed that the Terra on Terra Stellar sparkles like that when you're like hovering over the option like in Rainbows.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I just never noticed that. That's so cool.
Yeah, that actually is something nice to know because, again, Terra Stellar, we do get a boost to every move the first time you click it.
Exactly.
Except for Protect, because, it's not a damaging move.
Yeah, just except for non-damaging moves.
We do see Colby thinking long and hard about what he wants to do here. He's running out of time. And he timed out.
Oh.
And he timed out. Colby timed out, but that just means that Rillaboom is going to go for something like a Protect here, which is the first move as Raging Bolt comes out, and a Protect comes out on the Chien-Pao, which actually is good for Colby's side. By getting that Protect off, he essentially ensures that Entei can't go for something like a Sacred Fire, into the Rillaboom, but it went into the Raging Bolt and get the burn.
Sacred Fire has a 50% chance of burn.
And that's a Choice Banded sort of ruined through the resist, mind you.
That does a lot of damage.
And Chien-Pao on Chris's side does have that Terra Stellar, but it has an Ice Spinner. As we know, Ice Spinner will remove that grassy terrain. So essentially, Chris can go for that Ice Spinner onto the Rillaboom, and it'll do super effective damage and remove the grassy terrain.
Yeah, removing that grassy terrain is going to be very pivotal, as it's also not just removing grassy terrain, it's removing the Grassy Glide ability coming from this Grassy Glide move option for priority.
We do see a Terra Orb activated on Chris Zamora's side. It's
on
Colby's. Into the Rillaboom, and Rillaboom decides to say, you know what, I might be a Grass-type starter, but I think Fire is better for this matchup.
I think Fire's more than my speed, is what he says.
We see a Sucker Punch come out on the side of Raging Bolt, and it almost knocks out just off of that raw damage as a Grassy Glide comes out.
A lot of damage. Not enough, though.
But
Thunderclap onto the already Sucker Punched, and since it's not doing any more damage, Sacred Fire just doing some more damage onto that.
And a critical hit to boot.
Crit mattered.
Crit definitely mattered.
Oh, yeah.
That is just an amazing play by Chris, getting rid of that Raging Bolt and essentially ensuring that one of Colby's Pokemon that had a priority move could not even move on that turn.
Yep. And now we have the
Farigiraf come out here, and now Farigiraf has essentially negated any sort of priority move on the side of Chien-Pao with that Sucker Punch. However, Entei is locked into that Sacred Fire right now, Landon.
It really is, yeah. And it being locked into that Sacred Fire means it's not worried about Armor Tail at all. But this Chien-Pao might be a bit scared of the Grassy Glide.
I think you're probably right here. It might even be just scared of a Dazzling Gleam. Might just go for something like a Protect here. But that actually might hurt Chris more than it'll help him, because essentially that Chien-Pao, it can just go for something like
the Ice Spinner
into the Farigiraf there, losing some of its HP as the Citrus Berry comes out on Colby's side and heals up the Farigiraf here. What is the Entei going for? It's going for that Sacred Fire again, mind you, but who did it go into? It went into the Farigiraf, and it's enough to knock it out!
Now, if the Grassy Glide went out onto that Chien-Pao, then the Chien-Pao wouldn't have had that opportunity.
We do see a Wood Hammer come out, and that was big damage. If the Ice Spinner didn't come out, that would have done 50% to a resisted Entei.
Wow, this is an insane start for Chris Zamora right now. He's in just such a commanding position. And wow, what a game one going into this win and in.
Remains to be seen what Chris will do, what Colby will do, because Colby right now is kind of on the back foot here. However, especially now that there's no grassy terrain left, we do see a Sacred Sword come out on the side of Chris's Chien-Pao. It brings Chien-Pao down to its Focus Sash. So now what did Chien-Pao go for on Colby's side? It went for the Sacred Sword into the Entei. Not enough! A Sacred Fire coming out! Super effective! And Chien-Pao goes down on Colby's side.
That is insane.
And a Wood Hammer coming out onto the Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao goes down. So both Chien-Paos go down on this turn. But Chris still has two Pokemon in the back that haven't taken a single iota of damage.
Not a bit. And
we see the Pawmot! The Pawmot makes an appearance. Yes. And it's a shiny Pawmot, too.
Oh, let's go.
It's a shiny Pawmot, too.
No! Don't do it. Don't do it to me.
Realize that there's no way out for
I
Colby.
see the
He can
Palmot
see.
do his thing.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
That would have been so fun.
If anything, though, we can think of it this way. The mind games were that Palmot coming out was really the saving grace as to why Colby didn't want to take any damage.
He got a little too scared.
Got a little too scared of the Palmot.
Yeah. Of course.
Honestly, that is a great play by Chris Zamora. He brings the Palmot for game number 1 and is able to just pilot it. He didn't even have to use Palmot or his 4th Pokemon. We don't even know what his 4th Pokemon was.
Yeah, it's not having that advantage of not even having to show your opponent what your 4th Pokemon is. Truly is just so helpful for Chris in this situation, because then it starts to mind games like, oh well, did I have my Ogerpon? Did I have my Porygon 2? Like, because he was using Porygon 2 a lot during round 1. But, you know, we haven't seen it yet. And we'll see if it does him as good as it did in the round 1 match.
I think you're right there, because that Porygon 2 did major damage, as did that Chien-Pao. I mean, we got to remember in round 1, that Chien-Pao with that the Life Orb Ice Spinner getting that critical hit on the Ogerpon. That is what set him up for game 3 against Brendan Nasir.
This Chien-Pao does a lot of damage, and it is not afraid to do even more. And we're about to go into this game 2 of the win and in. Chris is at an advantage. Let's see if he can hold it.
Let's see if he can hold it here. We're going to get into game number 2. Chris leads with Chien-Pao and Palmot. Palmot making the lead in game number 2 versus the Urshifu Rapid Strike and the Raging Bolt.
Oh, boy.
And now this Palmot, ladies and gentlemen, does have Volt Absorb as its ability. So essentially, the Raging Bolt, if it goes for something like a Thunderbolt, it'll do damage on the Chien-Pao, because Volt Absorb is not like Lightning Rod. It does not redirect an electric type move. It only does the damage.
That is important to note.
If you are targeted by that move.
Yep. So now Colby just got to think, man, how do I deal with this very intimidating Palmot over here?
I think you're right here, because this Urshifu, its Unseen Fist ability does negate any protecting by Chris's Pokemon on the field right now, as we do see a switch out on Chien-Pao. And what is it being switched out for? It is being switched out for the Ogerpon. That is actually really bad, because Urshifu went for the U-turn into that slot. Super effective damage.
Just a lot of damage going on to that Ogerpon. So now what? We're seeing the Rillaboom come switch in.
The Rillaboom is now on the field, ladies and gentlemen. And Palmot, what move did Palmot go for, I wonder?
If it went for the Double Shock, that's not going to do too much damage. And it's not.
He did go for Double Shock, and it doesn't do much damage. But Palmot uses up all its electricity. It is no longer an electric fighting type. It is just a fighting type right now.
That is true.
And Ogerpon goes down to the combination of U-turn and Thunderbolt, but this Life Orb recoil is going to be slightly negated by the grassy terrain being set up by Rillaboom.
Yep, and so now we gotta wonder, like, because now Colby's in an advantageous situation. He's in a pretty solid spot, I'd say. And you know, how's Chris gonna respond with this? We're gonna see an Entei come out from Chris's side. So now there's some options.
and again, on the side of Palmot, just because it lost its electric type, that Volt Absorb still will activate and make it immune to any electric move. So the only move that Raging Bolt can use to affect that Palmot is that Dragon Pulse.
That's the only move it can use at all. And it is still good, reliable damage onto that Palmot, of course, but it just takes that priority Thunderclap option.
And we see the Protect come out on the side of Rillaboom here. Palmot ends up going for whatever, but it's not going to work, because Raging Bolt also is protecting to get itself back to full health. The Revival Blessing! We've seen the Revival Blessing!
You cannot double protect in front of Palmot.
And the Ogerpon got revived!
No way.
But this Choice Banded Entei, it actually is locked in.
Oh my gosh.
This Entei is Choice Banded. It's locked itself into Snarl.
Oh, I'm so happy with this game.
Oh my God, we got the play. We got the Revival Blessing. For the
Revival
first
Blessing.
time in over 2 years, a Palmon on stream has used Revival Blessing, a move that many people were like, this is the most broken move ever because you're guaranteeing a Pokemon comes back at 50% health. That could be the make or break point in the game.
Yeah, it definitely could be. And like I'm just speechless by that. Like, what great plays coming from Chris. Like, recognizing the fact that a double protect may be possible and just using that to his advantage.
Exactly. Now, we also have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Chris has not activated his Terra Orb yet, so even if he did and used it on something like an Ogerpon, it wouldn't have mattered because the Terra Orb would have been negated by virtue of it being used.
That is good to know.
We see
know
Rillaboom
looking
being
forward.
switched out here, and in comes the Urshifu Rapid Strike once again onto the field,
Now, if there's a
We see a
close,
close-
combat,
and that does good
Lot of
damage
damage.
in a Palmont. That was big damage. The special defense and the defense drop come out, but the Dragon Pulse coming out here. This will bring Palmont down all the way to its focus sash, ladies and gentlemen, which is really good.
that is so good for Colby right now. But honestly, I still think Chris isn't in a too bad a spot.
But here's the most important note, to, ladies and gentlemen. Chen Pao does have Sucker Punch on Chris's side. Urshifu on Colby's side does have Aqua Jet. If Chris potentially tries to go for something like a Sucker Punch into that Urshifu, that might be the right play here.
Yeah, but if it Sucker Punches after the Aqua Jet, it's not going to do much damage.
Actually, it wouldn't even matter because it would fail.
It's not much damage. Excuse me. Not too much damage. It wouldn't do damage.
It would fail.
Exactly. Would do nothing at all.
So now it remains to be seen what Chris is going to do here because, again, the Terra is still potentially around on his side. And, again, with Double Shock being used, we do see Aqua Jet come
coming
out
out on the Chien Pao instead.
as Ice Spinner comes
Ice Spinner
out. Life Orb,
onto-
Ice Spinner. And it does it! Raging Bolt goes down! The Life Orb Ice Spinner takes down
And
that Raging Bolt!
And it looks like Palmont might be able to take out this Urshifu
Going
with
for the
that
close combat. And Urshifu goes
Two
down.
Pokemon in one turn for Chris Zamora.
And both of them by Palmont. Oh, wait, no.
No.
Palmont took out the Urshifu.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
I
But
will say, I thought Palmont was going to do good for a reason. Because it is good. Don't clown on Palmont, man.
right now, it is doing incredible amounts of damage here, ladies and gentlemen. Being able to take out that Urshifu Rapid Strike and essentially ensuring that Chris's Pokemon are the fastest on the field, even though he still has that Choice Banded Entei in the back.
Yep, and it's just, gosh. I mean, Chris is just in such a nice position with his lovely little Palmont friend.
And we see Colby activate his Terra Orb. His Chen Pao is... I was trying to get the right word. I'm sorry, ladies. He was covered in crystals, and now the crystals, with the power of Terrapagos, transforms Chen Pao into a Stellar Terra. And the Chen Pao on Chris's side goes for the Protect. Did he go Sacred Sword into that slot, I wonder?
If he did, the Palmont goes the double protect. Probably this got out that fake out.
I think that was the right play, but there was no play. It was a Grassy Glide into the Palmont slot, which is protected, and Chen Pao going for the Sacred Sword, which is also protected. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to remember that even though Colby's Chen Pao has Terraslized into a Stellar Terra, just because he used Sacred Sword into a protecting Pokemon, that does not negate the Terra Stellar boost, I don't think.
No, it does not. It acts as if the move never happened. All it does is remove the PP.
Exactly. So right now, Chris has played around that Terra Stellar very well.
Oh, absolutely, he has. And like looking at this, Colby's not out of this at all.
He is definitely not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. But Colby's Chen Pao does have that Focus Sash, so a double up into that slot might be something. We do see a Grassy Glide coming into the Palmont. Palmont does go down. Which Chen Pao is faster, I wonder?
The opposing Chen Pao using the Sacred Sword, bring it down to 1.
So Chen Pao's focus sash on Colby's side comes out. However, again, there is a Choice Banded Entei in the back and an Ogre Pawn.
And it has that extreme speed is what we have to take into consideration.
And we see the Chen Pao has fainted due to that Terra fighting off the Terra Stellar Sacred Sword. And Chen Pao does get a little bit of recovery back, even though its focus sash has been used up. Rillaboom and Chen Pao are on the field for Colby. Those are the last 2 Pokemon, Entei and Ogerpon, that got Revival Blessing. This would originally be a 2-on-1 right now.
Yes, it
Landon.
would. And it's just like Chris is in just such a nice position. It's definitely not guaranteed in any way, but he's not really too nervous right now, is what I would say.
No, he's definitely not too nervous here. But what I'm also realizing now, ladies and gentlemen, is by virtue of the Entei, it doesn't even have to click the extreme speed. It can just click Sacred Fire because Rillaboom is now weak to that Sacred Fire. Choice Band sort of ruined Sacred Fire, which is super effective. That Rillaboom is going to be cooked a little bit.
Yeah, and if this Ogerpon just does like a little bit of redirection.
We see a Protect come out on the side of Chen Pao here.
What to anticipate the extreme speed. The Follow Me coming from the Ogerpon. Now, what is this Entei going to do?
Goes for
Sacred Fire
into the Rillaboom, and Rillaboom is cooked.
Is definitely the game. It looks like Chris Zamora will be winning this game, possibly getting his. That's his winning into Top Cut.
I believe so, and that is a big 2-0 win for Chris Zamora here. Absolutely incredible by both of these trainers. And just that Revival Blessing, man.
Oh, the Palmont.
we have to talk about that, Paul.
We have to talk about
gotta talk about Palmont here, because honestly, in game number 1, it didn't do much because it really couldn't do much.
Exactly.
Game number 2, it comes in, it hits that Revival Blessing. Chris, I mean, it was a very risky play there because
absolutely.
He could have just gone for something like
Do you think that's why he sent out the Entei so that his opponent would double protect to scout out what the Entei's locking into?
Ooh, that could have been really good right there. And if that was his play, that is brilliant strategy by Chris. Just being able to use that one turn, get that Revival Blessing off, and make sure that he had a Pokemon in the back, even if it's at 50% health. 50% is better than 0%.
That Follow Me was going to help in the end.
It really was.
The 2-on-2 is way better than a 1-on-2.
Exactly. And even then, the Rillaboom did have Protect, so did the Chen Pao, but Rillaboom could not protect itself from the super effectiveness of the Entei Sacred Fire and the Sword of Ruin on top of it. Rillaboom was going down. The only way it wouldn't go down is if Sacred Fire's 95% accuracy reared its ugly head.
Yeah, it was, just great plays from both players. It was just, I loved seeing the Palma do pretty good. And I don't even think that last game Chris used the Terra at all.
No, actually, he didn't.
Use the Terra.
He didn't. I feel like he might have risked it in the late game, but the fact that it was a Rillaboom and a Terra Stellar Chen Pao, which is still an Ice-type Pokemon, I think he could get away with just clicking Sacred Fire and a Follow Me redirection just to ensure if, he did click Terra Normal on the Entei, he's not super effective.
Yeah, it's... wow. I just don't have any words, It's just like this was so solid from both players in the round 5 of our final round of Swiss. Now we're going into our Top Cut, and I just can't wait to see who's in Top Cut.
I can't wait to see either, but we know that Chris Zamora is probably going to be one of those lucky 8 players fighting for the chance to call themselves the Maitland April local champion here at Cool Stuff Games Maitland. We're going to take a short break, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be back with a little bit of a Top Cut